Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Passage Unlocked, where we attempt to unlock the Bible one verse at a time. Today, I want to ask you a question, and that is, what would you say up until this point in your life were some of the best days of your life? What were some of the best days of your entire life? I would say as I grew older, as I matured, as I aged and such, those days probably changed a bit. For example, I can remember back when I was in about the kindergarten or first grade, the best day of my life was simply getting out of school for the summer. I wasn't a fan of school at that time. I was kind of a homebody, and I wanted to be at home. I wanted to be home with my mom and daddy and spend time with my family. I didn't like school at all. So when summertime came, that was the best day of my life at that point because I was so excited about it. Fast forward a bit, all the way up until, say, I was a senior in high school, just as for example, I decided and determined then for sure, kind of based on the same idea, that the best day of my life was going to be my graduation. When I could walk across that stage for the very last time, graduate from high school, that would be the best day of my life. Just a few short years later, the best day of my life was the night that I was able to meet what would soon be my wife, okay? And I loved her from the moment I saw her. It was love at first sight, if you will, and that was by far the best day of my life up until that point. Fast forward a bit, it's kind of similar to that and family related. The best day of my life was the day that my daughter was born, later than my son was born, and on you could go. Those were some of the best days of my life. And then I fell into heart failure. I'd had a congenital heart defect even as a child, and I fell into heart failure eventually at about 32 years old. And the best day of my life was when I was 38, and I actually received the gift of life via a heart transplant. My life was transformed and changed. Opportunities were given, and that was by far and away the best day of my life up until that point. Since that time, I've experienced other great days, such as seeing my daughter graduate from high school, my son do the same, my daughter graduate from college, and her getting married, and we've adopted 3 little girls and seeing them grow up. Those are some of the best days of my life. But, my prayer for myself, if I were to look in the mirror and just admit that those to this point, those are lists, if you will, an extensive list, really, of all the best days of my life in a nutshell, I would pray that those are not the best days of my life. I would pray that in my past, yes, that's fine. In the present, maybe things like that or similar to that are okay. But in the future or in potential, the best day of my life had better not be anything to do with this side of eternity. I'm mindful of the words of the Apostle Paul as recorded in 2 Timothy chapter 4, beginning in verse 6, where Paul said, "I'm now ready to be offered. The time of my departure is at hand. I have fought a good fight. I've finished my course. I've kept the faith." Then the next verse says this, "Henceforth," or because of that, you might say, "henceforth is laying up for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord the righteous judge shall give unto me in that day, but not unto me only, but unto all them that love his appearing." Focusing just on verse 8, that latter verse I just quoted, that, my friends, that must be. It absolutely must be the best day of your life, perhaps sometime in potential or in the future. If you're not a child of God's today, if you have failed to be fully obedient to God, to obey the gospel, to follow after his plan, the best day of your life won't be that day. You see, I noticed the words what Paul wrote there on behalf of God by inspiration. He said, "Unto all them that love his appearing." He's speaking there of the second coming, the return, the advent of Jesus. And he's saying there, when the Lord returns in the clouds as he will, that will be the best day of your eternity. If you love him. If you can love his appearing. There will be those there, however, unfortunately, who have not obeyed the gospel, who have not trusted God and not done as he required of us or them, and they will dread that day. They will ultimately despise that day when every knee is bowing before the Lord, and they have to bow knowing that they've not bowed prior to that day. And so now their bowing is to just give over to his, if you will, to his will, which would ultimately involve them not obtaining heaven, to be honest, ending up in hell because of their disobedience, because of their lack of obedience. That won't be a very good day. So my prayer today for myself as well as for you is that the best day of your life has not yet come. There have been good days. There have been days worth celebrating. But I pray the best day of your life and your eternity has not yet come, but you'll be able to join with me in judgment when the Lord returns and be able to say, I love his appearing. Stay faithful, my friends.